What you believe, what you presume to be so, what you presume to be so may soon be moved, may soon be moved. Even the fabric of reality, if you decided it should be as you have decided it should be, may be moved in time, may be moved in time. The self who thinks she knows, the self who thinks she knows, that operates in separation, is about to be moved, is about to be moved to the collective, because the collective itself has decided to be moved, has decided to be moved. Now, when the collective agrees to be moved, everyone is impacted. Everyone is impacted. You may decide to interpret what the experience means, what the experience you're having means, you are having means, but in fact, one and all will be having the same experience, will be having the same experience, and moving beyond a sense of moving beyond a sense of self that has been thus far operative, that has been a belief, that has been in a belief of separation from the divine, from all things, from all fellows. Now, some of you say, what would make this so? What would make this so? Is there an event? Is there an event? In fact, there has been a decision. In fact, there has been a decision. A decision was made by the collective, and the decision was made by the collective to move beyond the old, and to claim the new, and to claim the new. If you can imagine a boat, arriving on uncharted shores, you would have an experience. You would have an experience that is about to happen, on the manifest plane, that you have known, Now, some of you are getting excited. This sounds like something special. In fact, it's an interior experience. For each individual who's about to be challenged, who is about to be challenged by the beliefs that they have held, and challenged by several things, by the bodily experiences, by the bodily experience that they are having, the health systems, if you wish, the strategies for being well, and also the constructive choice that you have used to decide on yourselves, not only to decide for yourselves, but for your fellows as well, What is about to happen? What is about to happen is that humanity is saying, I am not limited by the old. I am not limited by the old structures, by the old ways of choice, Now, some of you think this must be a revolution. This must be a revolution. People putting up arms, people fighting others. In fact, this will be the end of fighting. This will be the end of fighting, because the belief in separation has been so claimed, that there is nowhere else to go, but towards unity, Paul keeps seeing the image. Of a chain of hands, a very long chain of hands, as if they are encircling the world, when humanity finally understands that you need one another, that no one is disposable, that each human being is worthy, the relief that humanity will experience, will be totally incumbent on a new way of being, And this means simply, everything has to change. Everything has to change, because you can no longer tie yourself, to that which was chosen to bear, to that which was chosen in fear, mandated in fear, and agreed to through collective fear, Now, what are examples, you may ask? You wish the examples will prove your points. You wish the examples that will prove your points. In fact, the exemplars are rather different than you might think, Collective ideas collective ideas of what it means to love, of what it means to love, what it means to share, what it means to share, what it means to provoke, what it means to provoke, what it means to tithe, what it means to tithe, collective ideas of what it means to know joy, of what it means to know joy, of what it means to sow seeds for the future, of what it means to sow seeds for the future, what it means to see others, what it means to see others as worthy of the fruits of those seeds, as worthy of the fruits of those seeds, the embellishment that the small self has used, that the small self has used. I am the most important person in the world. I am the most important person in the world. Nobody else knows it. Nobody else knows it, but that is always the case. But that is always the case, is about to be moved away, is about to be moved away to a new reliance, in truth, on the aspect of self, on the aspect of self that knows itself already in union, that knows itself already in union, Understand this, friends. Understand this, friends. There's an aspect of each of you. There is an aspect of each of you that already knows itself in union, that already knows itself in union, that is participatory to great changes, that is participatory to the great changes that are about to come, He interrupts the teaching. No more changes, thank you. No more changes, thank you. Some of us are very tired. We want a nice rest. A return to an idea of normalcy, an idea to a return of normalcy. Well, you may have a respite, yes. Well, you may have a respite yet, but what has actually been incurred by humanity, chosen by the collective, will not be stopped, because you have no choice at this level, What does that mean, he asks? What does that mean, he asks? Circumstantially, if you have created the means for self-destruction, you must also reclaim the opportunity. To release that and choose the higher, The choosing of the higher is what has commenced, And the fruits of this are catalytic to existing structure, to claim peace, true peace, to release the idea of war itself, which is an illustration of separation, and fear. To choose peace is to catalyze the fear, the need to damn your fellows, Now, once this is catalyzed, it can be seen. But when the dust of it has settled, the truth is seen. That which has always been there. You've always been one. You have always been one. You have just denied it. Now the reliance on the old, which we spoke much about. Which we have spoken much about, is what is shifting. When you cannot rely upon the old economic systems, upon the old economic systems or political systems, or the old treaties of peace, that perhaps forged in fear of war, You will understand that everything that you thought was solid, is actually in transition. To trust this process, as part of a prosperity, a prosperity of humanity, reclaiming its divinity. Will allow you through it, without contributing mayhem, to contribute to mayhem simply is to decide what should be, how it should look. Blame those who are not making things wrong, who are not making things as you want, and deciding for yourself that you are the queen upon the throne, and that the kingdom should be, what you say. The divine is who and what you are. The divine as who and what you are, the manifest divine in form and field, The manifest divine in form and field is what ushers you to experience, is what ushers you through this experience, because it is this aspect, that comprehends the opportunities it presents, that comprehends the opportunities that it presents. When humanity itself has said yes to a new idea of being, to a new idea of being, the potential for humanity, the potential for humanity to be lifted to this new agreement, becomes present instantly, becomes present instantaneously. But by becoming present, it actually allows you to receive what it would bring you, which can only be met through the release of what you have believed to be, prior. What's an example? He asks. What's an example? He asks. Well, 7 days of the week. Well, 7 days of the week, and you cannot have an eighth day, and you cannot have an eighth day while maintaining no calendar, while maintaining an old calendar. Suddenly, the old calendar is rendered futile, no longer meaningful. But you have appointments. You have holidays. You can't reconfigure a calendar. You can't reconfigure a calendar without releasing the ideas of what should happen and when, of what should happen and when. Each time we teach through Paul, we are lifting you incrementally. We are lifting you incrementally to the level of vibration that we sing at, where we're lifting you in the next text. And where we are lifting you in the next text is not only beyond the known, but beyond what the small self can conceive, but beyond what the small self can conceive. The illustrations you will receive are not born in doctrine, but great potential. And great potential befalls humanity. And when great potential befalls humanity, humanity has a choice. And the choice has been made. We will rise anew. We will be claimed anew. Now, when we speak of mayhem, we are simply giving you an idea. We are simply giving you an idea of what happens when systems collapse. And when systems collapse, the evidence you have accrued to what reality should look like, is displaced. You keep seeking to fix the old. When in fact the old may not be fixed. When in fact the old may not be fixed. The old may be seen. The old may be seen as a relic of consciousness. The best humanity could do. Given its conditioning through fear. The denial of the divine, which is the only true problem you face, will finally be met through the collective chorus. It will be so. It will be so. God is. God is. God is. God is. God is. God is. It will be so. It will be so. It is. It is. It is so. It is so. The announcement of being in the face of the refuting of the divine, is what you will see, experience yourselves through, and support each other through, It's because what it renders is all things new, and all things are made new, at the cost of the old ideas, of what you think should be, must be so, in order to give you an idea, of your worth, born in prior structure, until you all understand. Until you all understand that your inherent worth, which is your right to be, has nothing whatsoever to do with your occupation, or bank account, or physical prowess, or physical prowess or creative genius or a beautiful way of speaking or beautiful way of speaking until you all understand, until you all understand that your right to be, is non-negotiable, and this is true for all, and this is true for all. You will seek to mandate outcome. You will seek to mandate outcome through the old means, a better job, a nicer house, a different way of being seen, a way of being seen by your neighbors and fellows, to affirm the ideas we present, to affirm the ideas you wish to present. The cataclysm that is before you. The cataclysm before you is catalytic. Catalytic is positive. Catalytic is positive when a system fails. But when a system fails, it may do so loudly. Now, the systems that are failing currently are things that we negotiate through, are things that have been negotiated through fear, covered up in some ways, given merit in arbitrary ways. There is nothing wrong with an economic system. There is nothing wrong with an economic system, but if it decides who is worthy and who is not, it is born in fear. It is born in fear and will be made new Everybody is scurrying. For the small piece of cheese, that you think is wealth, and what you are not doing. And what you are not doing is receiving the good from the divine source, that is here for you now, You would rather fight over the small piece of cheese. You would rather fight over the small piece of cheese than release the need for that idea, and receive what might be offered to you, What might be offered to us, he asks. What might be offered to us, he asked. All things made new. All things made new. Now, when all things are made new, you must trust implicitly. That the needs of the individual, and the collective will be met, but in higher ways than they have been thus far, than they have been thus far. And by higher we mean higher in intention, without fear, and beyond the divine, and beyond the denial of the divine, which is the creation of poverty, and sickness, and despair. When you know yourselves as worthy, when you understand the idea of source, when you understand the idea of source as an octave of experience, where your needs may be met, and you may share with others, you are releasing a need. You are releasing a need to become subject to the old systems, that would decide for you, based on old tenets, what can be, what cannot be, what is allowed and never allowed, what is allowed and never allowed. If you were to look beyond the idea, beyond the idea of a system of economic structure, any system of oppression, or any system of oppression, if you look beyond it, you might actually see that these things have been operating, through collective agreement. There is not one horrible man. Pulling strings. There is a collective. In agreement to oppression, in many forms. When the agreement to oppression is released fully. It is as if the ceiling between the world you have known, and the upper room, the place of source and plenty, is released is released. Imagine what it would be like. Imagine what it would be like to look up at the ceiling, to look up at the ceiling, the highest reality you can imagine, the highest reality you can imagine and comprehend that it is an illusion, that it is an illusion, that there is more beyond it, that there is more beyond it. That realization that there is more beyond it, that there is more beyond it, was allows the old ceiling to fall apart, is what allows the old ceiling to fall apart. Now, when the debris is falling, you cover your head, you look for shelter, but please, friends, do not presuppose that what is happening is dark of shadow. What is happening is a reclamation of divinity, and that which has been put in shadow, and that which has been put in shadow, shielded from light, is about to be seen, to be released, to be released. So say yes to the highest that can be known, to the highest that can be known. Say yes. Say yes to the aspect of each human being, to the aspect of each human being that already knows itself in sovereignty, And understand this, You are free, you are free, you are free, you are free, you are free. You are free, and the claim I am free, and the claim I am free will in fact release you, from the collective, the fear, the beliefs, the denial of the divine that the collective has utilized, that the collective has utilized to maintain an idea, of who and what it should be, of who and what it should be in the absence of God. Now, what is the absence of God? Now, what is the absence of God but darkness? What is the absence of God? What is the absence of God but the denial of source? This is not the God on the cloud. This is not the God on the cloud, the God with the tablets, the God with the tablets. This is the vibration. This is the vibration that is as all things, in true awareness, of itself, as masked by the lower ideal, and now lifted, and revealed anew, when we say to you each, you have come, you have come, you have come, you have come, you have been released, from your desire, to manifest through separation, because you now have access, to not only the upper room, but all that may transpire here, but to all that may transpire here. What may transpire here, and what may transpire here is your awareness, of the inherent divine, that in fact not only meets your needs, but claims you in agreement to them, prior to even asking what they are, prior to your even asking what they are. We know who you are in truth. We know what you are in truth. We know how you serve in truth. You are free. You are free. You are free. Be still and know. 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 Be still and know that you are free. That you are free. Period. 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 Stop now, please. Stop now, please.